two gods, Horus and Seth, became the type of the everlasting war which good men wage against sin. And this is interesting to me because it counters the popular Christian idea that Horus's resurrection is just a natural phenomenon. You see, Horus not only dies here on earth, but he dies continually in heaven. He dies every day once he becomes Re-Horaktai, the god of the another god of the sun. We have these conglomerate deities all becoming a trinity of the sun, if you will. Also similar, but in any case, Horus dies continuously in a representation of the sun. He will die and he will rise again, and just as the sun does at night. And so originally this was intended as an explanation of nature, and so Christians would like to say, well, it's a natural phenomenon, it's a natural explanation, so therefore it doesn't count as a sacrifice. Well, it actually does, because Horus's battle, Horus doesn't have to die. He doesn't have to fight the forces of evil that wind up slaying him every night. But he chooses to, because he is the ultimate good fighting the ultimate evil. And this is how the Egyptians figured him. So this is also very, very similar to Jesus' myths. Next, though, we have a lot of differences. We have, for example, the story of a Lazarus. Jesus raises this guy Lazarus from the dead in the Bible, and a lot of people have tried to find this among Horus, but you don't really find it. The thing is, though, a lot of people have noticed that Azarus is the Egyptian pronunciation of Osiris. I have confirmed this. I looked up in various Egyptian texts, and this is how they would have spelled it, Aesarus. However, the Greeks formed the name Osiris that we are familiar with today. But and Osiris, or Azarus, was indeed a resurrected fellow. He was resurrected, but not by Horus, and that's where the similarities die off. So we have, in fact, Horus, if you'll recall earlier, Horus wasn't even born at the time. He was conceived as a result of this, so he wasn't even born at the time. So there are some accounts that Horus the Elder, the uncle of Horus that we've been dealing with, that he was, involved in this. Somehow there are some accounts of this. Very few, but there are some. But I don't think that the Christians would have been influenced by this, because the Horus the Elder had no messianic traits, and if they did think that Horus the Younger was present at the death of Osiris, then there's no way he could have been an immaculate conception. So that's that, as far as I'm concerned. There's also a lot of thought that Anup, the baptizer, we have called him Anup the baptizer, that he is John the Baptist. And there are some people who have gone so far as to claim that Anup is the Egyptian name for John. Now, I'm not a linguist. I don't even know what John means other than a bathroom. But so I can't say that either way. I can't tell you if that's true or not. But I do know who Anup was. Anup is what we call Anubis. That's his Greek name. And he is not really Anup the baptizer as much as Anup the anointer. This isn't in itself as much of a difference, because baptizing was invented by John the Baptist, invented. He really we might as well have called it anointing. I mean, there's really no difference between baptismal and anointment, other than one, you're sprinkling on the head, which some Christian organizations still do today, and then the other you're like dunking or whatever you're doing. It's different depending on the type of baptismal, but essentially baptism is an anointment, just from God rather than a royal person. Well, Anup is the same thing. He doesn't anoint with a royal authority, as in a pharaoh. He anoints with the authority of the gods, with the authority of Osiris, in fact, later on. But before Osiris died and became the judge of the afterlife, Anup was himself the lord of the afterlife, and he was the one who would anoint people and basically send them on to the Egyptian version of heaven. And this is interesting because he taught man how to anoint people. He taught man what spells and such were necessary to send himself on into the afterlife and achieve immortality. And another thing is that even though Anup wasn't the messenger of the Egyptian gods, the Romans thought he was, which is very strange to me. I don't really know why. All I know is that a lot of the Greeks and Romans believed that Anup was their Hermes. They liked to, make the gods associate together. So they associated Anup, or Anubis, with Hermes. And Hermes was the messenger of the gods, and so they thought that Anup must have been too. And so this is interesting because we have a figure who is an anointer, who teaches mankind how to achieve immortality in the afterlife, and who is the messenger of the gods. This sounds like a very good candidate for John the Baptist, but once again, we hit this supreme roadblock when we try to enter Horus into the equation, because Horus has nothing to do with Anup, really. So, I mean, Anup really never baptizes Horus. There are later accounts where Horus becomes sort of a conglomerate deity with Anup as well. I don't recall a baptism in there, though. I never found any. So this seems to fall flat on its face when we introduce Horus into the equation. So what can we conclude? Well, we have several different parallels between Horus and Jesus. We have that both were immaculately conceived. Both were heralded by a star at their birth. Both were hunted by the king of the lands at infancy. Both were resurrection deities. Both were of royal descent. Both became rulers of their people. And both represented the supreme order that fought sin and evil. So in the general ideas and in some details, as civilized, yes, they hold very similar. So much so that I would be very surprised indeed if Jesus wasn't influenced by Horus. However, there's a lot of other details that people like to make up. The Azarus, the Anup, the all kinds of different things. The method of crucifixion, the way that he was hung between two thieves, and all these things. People make this stuff up. So please take care when you read this stuff to make sure that it's right. Because remember, if you're skeptical, you have to be truly skeptical. You can't just take what others say for word. Look this stuff up. Look up the pyramid texts. Read it. Find out for yourself. It's very interesting stories. So, anyways, next week I thought I'd head on to the next resurrection deity that most people are familiar with, which is Osiris. He's the son of Horus, and there's some very interesting things dealing with him. So tune in next time. Thanks.